All right, here we go.
All right.
St.parris, how are you doing
Yes,
today?
yes. I'm doing good. How are you, my friend?
Doing all right, brother. It's been a good day so far. It's a good
It
Sunday,
is.
like pretty sunny, like all the way too. And just I've been hearing stuff like musically,
Mm-hmm.
just just give me a sec.
Yeah, yeah. Do your thing.
So yeah, no, just right now, like even like with I've been listening, to both projects like Space Jamz and Inner Space, and
Yeah,
like one of my favorite songs on there was 1994 2002 with
yeah.
you and Kame, which was also pretty good too. Like I also liked Good Looking. I also
Mm,
liked Running,
mm.
Kings, Cole said, Space Jams, and then like on Inner Space, Anime Vibes was also like a second favorite of mine.
Yeah,
April Showers is also good too. Through the Night and like The Price and like I'm Tired too. Like they're all like dope tracks like here and there,
yeah.
and you could tell like even like with the styles as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. So usually I usually ask for people who are like new on the platform, usually on speaking more about, like where they grew up and all that type of stuff. And then you grew up in Brampton, right?
So, all right, fun thing about that. So, I was born in Guyana,
Oh,
right?
true.
And I moved over to Canada when I was really young, like one or two. And when I first moved to Canada, I actually moved to Scarborough and I lived there till I was 12. And then I moved to Brampton after. Like when people ask me, oh, are you a Brampton artist? I always say, yes, I am a Brampton artist because number one, like when it comes to me finding myself as a musician and as a rapper, that happened in Brampton. When it comes to like the experiences that I talk about in most of my songs, that happened in Brampton. And like the biggest thing I find is like when you find rappers that actually came out of Brampton, they always just claim Toronto, right?
Yeah,
And I'm like, yo, this city needs more love. So I'm gonna be the one that says, yeah, actually, I'm from Brampton, but I did grow up in Scarborough till I was 12 years old. Then I moved over here in Brampton. Yeah,
true, true. So like even like growing up in Guyana and like
yeah.
Scarborough too. So how was like living like in two different places, like one being like a totally different country and then the other being like Scarborough?
So, like I said, when I moved from Guyana, I was pretty young. So I did go back there every now and then. But living in Scarborough, it was crazy just because, like the stereotype is Scarborough is like the Chicago of Canada.
Yeah.
So, so it was some like crazy stuff that happened to me there. I remember in middle school, I got shot at. It was with a staple gun, but still scary. And then what's it called? Like the principal got stabbed and all type of craziness. And then when I moved to Brampton, it's like I remember like the first time I was walking home from school alone, this guy tried to rob me and I laughed. Cause I'm like, cause he just like he didn't have anything, like no knife or nothing. He's like, yo, just give me your money. I'm like, okay, all right, I'll see you guys tomorrow.
No doubt, no doubt. But like the environment in Brampton, it's like kind of like pretty nice, even though like some people want to make it like this whole like hood type
Mm,
thing. Like, yo, I'm from
mm,
Brampton B, all that type of stuff too, even though like Brampton has like very nice townhouses and everything like that.
yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, man, I think like with Brampton though, at least when you're talking about like social media and how like the rest of the GTA views us, we're a joke to them. It's always Brampton takes another L. Brampton takes another L, right? And I'm like, yo, it's some really talented people coming out of Brampton, right? It's some really cool things coming out of Brampton. So, and that's another reason why I always claim Brampton because I'm like, I want to be the first time where people talk about Brampton. It's like, nah, Brampton takes a W. St.parris just take that. That Brampton takes a W. So yeah.
true, true. Yeah, I definitely know what you mean. So like in Brampton, like there were like a lot of artists like from there, like
Mm,
Alicia Cara, the
mm,
now infamous Tory Lanez, and then
yes.
you have the twin brothers, Jay and then Trey, and then also like a lot of other people too, like Little Bandcamp and then Tizzy Stacks as well.
Yeah.
The late Steno, rest in peace too. But like even like in
Yeah.
Brampton, was there ever like any inspiration there that made you want to pursue more like in the music scene then?
So I'll just say this quickly because you mentioned some names. So Tory Lanez and Trey and his brother, who are For Y'all Entertainment. They actually went to the school that I went with, the same high school, Fletcher's Meadow. So I didn't go to school with Tory Lanez. He was there before my time. But then the people from 4YallEnt, I actually went to school with them. When I'm talking about like personal influences that made me want to pursue music more in Brampton, there's this one dude called Raz Fresco, right? Dope artist. I think he's a super underrated artist. And I actually went to middle school with him. And I remember the first time I met him, right? We are like grade sevens. And he's like, yo, I'm gonna be a rapper, right? Like in grade seven, he said, yo, I'm gonna be a rapper. I remember he had this little video, Layin Low in the cut, that he put out. And I'm like, wow, this guy's really dope. And I like flash forward to like our grade 12 year in high school. I see this guy again. He has like all the gold rings on, and this man has the grills in. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, you know, my tape dropped. So I went to check out his tape, and guess who he had a feature on in his tape? It was the RZA.
Oh shit.
It was RZA for Wu-Tang.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the? So in my head, like, I know some people look at that and they just see jealousy. In my head, I'm like, this shit's possible. Like, he made it, like, to me, it's possible. It's tangible. It's a tangible goal now. So like when it comes, and that's like my grade 12 year, that's when I really started taking music seriously, and I started recording my own stuff and doing things like that. So it's just seeing that and seeing somebody that I knew and I went to school with. He's like, he made it, and I'm like, I could do that. So I would say, yeah, out of every artist is Raz Fresco. That's the one that really made this shit tangible for me.
True. And even like high school and middle school, so like how would they like you know, like have you ever like interacted with any of those three before?
Okay, so I only knew Tory off of there was this rap battle that happened outside of Fletcher's that he was a part of. He was rapping somebody at our sister school or our neighboring school, Campion. In my opinion, he won, but the people who edited were Campion dudes, so they cut all that out. With the 4YallEnt Entertainment guys, I actually chilled with the twins one time, and then the other time I was doing like a performance at the school. So then and one of them were emceeing the show, so I interacted with them just a little bit there. And 4YallEnt Entertainment was another one because like they really at a time they really blew up, like they were super big. So I'm like, and they claim Brampton all the way, and I like that. I'm like, oh snap. So that's another one that like really did it for me. I'm like, yeah, you know, I would always low key brag, like whenever I was talking to girls or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, you know, the 4YallEnt Entertainment guys, I went to school with them. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. And like even like Raz too, I guess, because I know like Raz from the jump, you know, with the music stuff. So hopefully I guess like that interaction between you and like Raz, it's like all dope as well, right?
Yeah, like I said, Raz is one of the reasons why I did. Actually, I want to mention another artist. So this is like artist on the same level as me, just as like not too many people know of him as of yet, but he's I would say I'm one of the best lyrical artists, hands down, just period. He is the only one I would say is like my rival in that way, and that's Ego the Most High. So there's actually this situation. So when I was first like thinking like, yo, I want to do this rap thing, there's this rap group at my school called was it Young Rap Stars, right? YRS. And I went to the person that was ahead of the group, and I think he goes by James Flow now. And I went to him and I'm like, yo, like I want to be a part of your group. And he's like, all right, here's what you do. You write something for me, you come back tomorrow and you spit it for me, and then I'll tell you. So I wrote something, I put my soul into this. Like I'm over here writing. I have the one candle, like no lights in my room, the one candle in my room, and I'm just writing. I think I wrote like the sickest shit of my life. So I go and I perform it for him. And to this day, I remember exactly what that rap is. But I rapped it for him, and he looked at me. He's like, honestly, it's okay, but like you don't got that, you know, you don't got that spark. It's not what it is. And that crushed me. I'm like, fuck, maybe I'm not good at this. And a few days earlier, I ran into Ego, and he was like freestyling, and everybody respected him. He was that rap guy at school. You know how you always have that one guy at school that's a rap guy? He was that rap guy, right? So I went to him, and I'm like, yo, I wrote this. Let me know if it's good. So I spat it for him, and he's like, yo, that's sick. What are you talking about? That's amazing. So from there, like that really gave me that extra push, right? That made me kind of like believe in myself. So I'd always be over at his house. We always be writing. My first tape I ever made, or my first song that I ever made, I was a feature, and that was off of one of his songs. And then I made a tape that no one will ever hear because it's garbage. But I also did that with him. So even to this day, like we constantly work with each other. The first song off of Inner Space, Skyfall, that's Ego on there, right? So like him and Raz are the two people I would say at just as artists that really pushed me to be like what I am today and to like really take this rap thing seriously.
No doubt, no doubt. And what's interesting too, when you talked about the whole like Tory Lanez rap
Yeah.
battle thing. There's a quick fact. So the guy that Tory Lanez was battling, he now goes by the name Toby. Toby, like right now, is like one of the most popular acts like in Toronto and like Canada right now. He
Oh,
also
true.
worked with like the Game, Chris Brown, a whole lot of other artists, and he actually just signed a deal with RCA just a while back too.
Oh, okay.
So that's like some interesting facts, that
Yeah.
I just wanted to say for that thing. So
Yeah,
yeah,
no, I like that. Yeah, me
true,
and Kami
true.
were actually talking. Kami's like, I really like how you went and you researched lo-fi, so the questions that you came, and then that's showing back here because I didn't even know that about the dude. So yeah, man.
True, true. Yo, so I know that you talked about that you started like making, music like during your high school days, like with the
Yeah,
whole rapping stuff and
yeah,
being influenced by like Raz Fresco.
yeah.
Were there other like musical backgrounds or histories like from that, like were your family like very like music influenced, they played music or anything like that, or was it just off the
Uh,
strength of you?
so I don't really have a lot of the musicians or any musicians in my family per se. What I would say, like even like prior to that, the person that put me on music was actually like my big brother. So like when you're younger, you always look up to your big
Yeah.
brother. So this is like way back in the day. I got my first MP3 player, really showing my age out here. But got my first MP3 player. My brother's like, yo, give me that. He went on LimeWire, again, showing my age. And the first song he downloaded was Kanye West Heard Him Say. And for a while, that's the only song I had on my MP3 player. And I listened to that on repeat. And I'm like, wow, that's what really got me into hip hop, just Kanye, because like the things he was talking about. And then even when you look at the time Kanye West like blew up, it was a time where like gangster rap and like 50 Cent, those were like, that was huge. But I was never that person, right? I was never a person that's like, I'm a thug or I'm a this and I'm a that. And when Kanye West came in, not only came in and made noise, but like took over the entire industry and doing something completely different. Instead of wearing these baggy shirts and like baggy pants, he's wearing a pink polo and a backpack. like
Yeah.
like I'm like that appealed to me. I'm like, okay, so I could do that too. So I like I said, like my family, not really. I have a cousin now in New York, and he does music as well. He's a producer and a rapper. He goes by the name Firearm. He released 2 projects that I know of. It's really dope. Um, but yeah, in terms of just like musical background, and my 2 cousins, they do sing. I don't know if they have any musical projects out, but and then I have a cousin in Guyana, Jackie Jacks. See, I said I don't have anybody in my family that does music, and now I'm naming like all the people in my family that does music. Yeah, no one does music. Oh yeah, all the people. I have a cousin
Yo.
in Guyana, Jackie Jacks. Actually, she's making noise over there. You remember the song Royal?
Like I
By
know,
Lizard Car.
yeah, I think Alicia Carr made the song Royal. I know Lord made a song called like Royals like back in 2014, but
Yeah. But she Jackie Jacks, my cousin, she did a remix of that. Yo! It was crazy. It was crazy. Like for the longest time, I was bumping in. People were like, "Yo, who's that?" Like, "Yo, that's my cousin." So yeah, as far as musical background and things, those are the people that I know of in my family that do music. I want to be able to reach out to them and like we do like a little family project or something, but
yeah.
we'll see what that takes us.
No doubt, no doubt. I mean, aside from like Kanye being like one main influence, and like the whole like nerd culture, anime culture, all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
What other influences do you have, in terms of music and like other stuff? And like in the future, who would you like to work with someday?
All right. So musical influences. So you already know Kanye West is a huge one. Also Most Def, in terms of just like how I used to spit. Like now how I rap is kind of more my own style, but I took off of Most Def just because I came into rap doing poetry. So Most Def was a huge influence. Another one being J. Cole. And the thing I took from J. Cole the most is, yes, he has the lyricism, yes, he has the bars, but it's just he's just real. I remember watching this video. It was I forget what the song was called right now, but it was him and Boz, and it was the last song off of Last Winter, Boz's album. And there's a part where J. Cole, his verse is coming in, and he's like, "Oh, should I do this intro or the other intro? But if I do this intro, people are gonna know that I took more than one take. Okay, we'll just do the other intro." I'm like, that's funny how you did that, because you just let people know that you did more than one take. And he's like, he's just undeniably him in every single song and every single record. He's just him. He's real, right? And that's like in an artist, that's why I love the most. In Kanye, that's what drew me to Kanye too, right? Because even like in his earlier days, he's like, I'm so self-conscious. That's why you catch me with at least one of my watches, right? He's telling everybody, yeah, I'm self-conscious. I don't pay my bills on time. J. Cole's doing the same thing where he's letting people know, yeah, I fuck up and I'm not the greatest person. So that's something I took. And then that relates to the whole anime thing, because, I love anime. I love anime. I came into it when I was very young. Dragon Ball Z, Inuyasha, Yu Yu Hakusho, all that. So I remember a time where I used to hide that because it wasn't the coolest thing, especially when I first came to Brampton and I didn't know that many people. It wasn't the coolest thing to talk about anime. So I remember one day it was like these like jocks and the hoodmans were over there and they're like, yeah, last night I seen Naruto do the young Rasengan. And I'm like, oh shit, y'all talk about Naruto? I so Kakashi. And then from that point I became more comfortable. And I remember another point in my life where you're getting older, you want to bring girls over the house or whatever. And I used to have like a bunch of anime shit. I had a Dragon Ball Z poster in my room. I had like all my video games. I had all my manga, all my comic books. And every time I brought a girl over, I'd hide all of it. Like I'm throwing it under the bed, throwing it in the closet because I didn't want them to see it. And then like one day, I forgot the girl was coming over and it was too late to hide all this stuff. And I'm like, yo, why do I need to hide it? Like, this is a part of me. So I'm not going to be ashamed for something I like. Well, obviously, she immediately left, but that's besides the point. The point was like from that point, I'm like, yeah, I love that nerd culture and just like anime culture is seeping their way into hip hop more and more. I think like the first instance of that was like the Wu-Tang, because like what anime is to like us is what old kung fu movies was to older black men. I swear to God, my dad, like if you ask him right now, they would have like a whole binder and it's like, okay, this is Enter the Dragon. Okay, this is Hidden Tiger, Crouching Dragon. So I really like to do that, and I like to be creative when I do that. So yeah, that's like the biggest thing. I don't think I gave you any. Tyler the Creator is another big influence. I
True.
would say, yeah.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And there's like a rise of like, nerd rappers and like black nerd
Mm,
rappers as well, like blowing up. I know you have acts like Azizi Gibson, who's like very big
mm,
on anime. You have
mm,
the whole Pro Era collective, Joy
mm, mm,
Badass, and Kirk Knight, Nick Caution, and like
mm.
even who else? I'm thinking I know like the whole like SoundCloud rap scene like is sort of like big on anime too.
Mm.
Like you have like rappers like Ugly God and like
Yeah,
X and Ski Mask and all these other rappers talking about anime and all that type of stuff too. So it's getting more normalized now
yeah,
and more accepted than like anything else in the world. Like I think even like the whole like black nerd culture, like it's even neutral, like even like within genders too. So that's like kind of like a big thing and
yeah,
amazing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Most def, most def. What I love about this. It's not even like also the fact that I could just express myself and like proudly say, yeah, you know, I watch a whole bunch because I used to spend a lot of time watching anime. One thing that I don't like is because it's like just so rampant. A lot of people kind of do like throwaway bars with anime, like they'd be like, "Oh, I'm going hard, Goku," and I'm like, "You didn't say anything." That's like when I do mine, like anime vibes. That whole song was just for me to find the most clever way to just sneak in anime. So that's why I'm like, you know, been a shinobi since the age of 3, smoking on a hidden leaf, hard to pollinate when you surrounded by these killer bees. So if you don't know Naruto, you'd be like, oh, that's crazy. And if you do know Naruto, right, it'll blow your mind. Actually, I was performing at Onyx nightclub at an event called Drip or Drown Fridays, right? And I was performing that song, and there's this one girl in the audience. She came up to me after. She's like, "Oh my god, you said Killer Bee," and I'm like, "Oh shit, that I know that from the anime." And then you said a hidden leaf, and that could be weed or it could be the village. And I'm like, "Yes, this is exactly is exactly what I wanted." But like either way, I just like the fact that it's being normalized. I like the fact that because like I'm a comic book nerd too, so I like putting comic books into that. MF Doom is another huge influence, and that's somebody that does that. Like his whole persona is crafted off of a you know, a comic book villain, and then he would dedicate like huge chunks of his album to just building up that story. And I love how he does that. And that's why like on the Space Jam album, that's why he's like, you know, one of the biggest things in there, because that's a huge influence. Even his style and aesthetic and the way that he raps, like he truly is your favorite rapper's favorite rapper. And you
Yeah.
know, he's another person that kind of normalized that in the industry. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And just speaking more like in terms of like the whole like music thing going on, you know, you recently dropped Space Jams not just
Mm-hmm.
like long ago. So
Mm-hmm.
tell me more about the creative process for it, and you know, like was the inspiration based off of the Space Jams movie that uh was like back in the 90s, or was it like something like very different?
So okay, so I have like a whole space aesthetic with all of my drops. So with the exception of my first drop, my first EP on SoundCloud, which was After Class. I actually wrote that because I had dropped out of school that year. So with every single L, so my first actual mixtape, From Paris to Mars, Inner Space, and Space Jams, it all derived from this saying, like, you know, the saying, the sky's the limit. I said,
Yeah.
well, look beyond the sky. And then I made a song called By Any Dreams. And I'm thinking, like, you know, like when little kids are young, it's like, oh, what do you want to be? I want to be an astronaut, basketball player, lawyer. So I actually drew an astronaut dunking a ball. And I'm like, I love that. Like, no dream is unattainable. And that's what the whole space aesthetic is about. That's why, like, I go by, you know, Young Astro, and I have the spaceman and all my things, because like no dream is unattainable. If you want to be the astronaut, basketball player that's, you know, shooting threes in outer space, you could be that. So that's where the space aesthetic came from. As far as like what was the process for building the album, so or the mixtape, Space Jams was not even supposed to be a mixtape. So originally it was just gonna be a bunch of singles, because I'm like, I had just released Inner Space, and then I started working on Space Jams like directly after. And I wasn't even gonna put like Good Looking, for example. I was at the time I was with PYO Records, and I was at the studio, and I was just spitting some bars I had written down. And the engineer, Vintage Vibes, he's like, "Yo, what are you doing? Get in the booth, like get in the studio, like right now, go, start rapping." So I'm like, all right, cool. So I just went in. I started doing my stuff, and then I'm like, yeah, I don't like that. And he's like, listen to back to it. I'm like, oh, that's actually really good. And I just kept coming in. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'm gonna make an EP. It's gonna be a 5-track EP. And then I just kept adding tracks. Cause like how I write too is the things going on in my life kind of inspire me to write. So with the whole concept of Space Jams, it's because like a big ridicule from that I get, or a critique that I get, is like, yo, why your song so depressing, man? Like, because especially like at the end of Inner Space, like I'm tired. It's supposed to be like it's a very depressing, very contemplative song. Like the last couple songs on that album, they're like, yo, why it's sick, but why is it so sad? So I'm like, all right, cool. I like making sad songs. It's like what I like doing. So the first part of Space Jamz is going to be like all the sad stuff, and then the second part is just going to be the more hype stuff. That's why you have that little skit split in it, and that's what Space Jamz is actually supposed to represent. The first part is space, so more ethereal, more like sad, and then the second part is jams. That's where you hype up and do your thing. And then I thought to bring the movie in because that's like one of my favorite movies of all time, and they're only making it better because LeBron James is going to be the lead actor for this. And I'm about to say something very controversial on your show, and I'm sorry, but LeBron James is the best basketball player of all time.
No doubt. I know what you mean.
In the comments, he's just like, but actually, no. So that was a part of it, but mostly just like split up the album. I like to have a concept running. It's never like super fleshed out like something like Good Kid, Mad City. But it's also like somewhere in the background. Like Inner Space is supposed to be a conversation, right? Yeah. So Inner Space is, like the inner depths of my mind and my soul. So first you get like a hint of like I may be sad, but I'm just still chilling with like the first song, Skyfall. Yeah. And then as you go on, you start to see, I slowly start regressing until I just blurt out my soul, which is I'm tired. Right, so that's what Inner Space. That's like the concept behind Inner Space. With Space Jamz, is just splitting up. Okay, like this is for me, and this is for y'all.
Yeah, no doubt.
But even like when I was doing that, even for some songs, like 1994 to 2002, that song was supposed to be completely different. What had happened is, Vintage Vibe, he lets other artists come to the studio and record. So he had this one artist. And I'm like, oh, this guy's dope. I want to do a song with him. And then I'm like, okay, I'll use this song, 1994. The funny part is he was also born in 1994, so it worked out that way. And like the guy heard it and he wasn't liking it. And then he ended up recording something, but it was not good at all. So a few months back, KidKame had reached out to me and he met me through the record label. And they're like, yo, like we should do a song together. So I'm like, all right. So I sent them the song and then we started working on it. And even from there, like that's when like me and KidKame are like best friends now. We call each other almost every day. And from there, they're like, yo, I want to do a video for this. And like, all right, cool. Like the video wasn't even my idea. Like it's my video, but it was not even my idea. They're like, I want to do a video for this. They're like, we need, he wanted a love interest. So I gave them the information to the person that did the Through the Night video, right? So when they contacted Devani from Deadlight Studios, they're like, you know what? Instead of me just being a love interest, I just want to do this project. Like I'm going to be the one shooting this thing. And I'm like, all right, then. I'm not going to say anything about it. So that's how that got started, which was really cool. I'm very thankful for that video because I got to make a great friend out of KidKame. That video was really dope. I actually visited. So the first shots that we took in that video, we actually went back to Scarborough. So I went back to where I used to live in Scarborough, Crescent town, and we did some scenes down there, which was pretty cool. So yeah, that's how like at least that. So once I did the thing with KidKame, I started collaborating with other artists. That's why you have B Wells, The Prophet. That's why you have 416 Savage on there. And that's why it just became bigger and bigger and bigger. And then after a while, I'm like, okay, I have a significant amount of tracks here. I'm just going to make it. Let's just say it's a mixtape and do it. So it was actually supposed to be done, or the first incarnation of it was done all the way back in 2019 when Inner Space dropped, and I was supposed to drop it like right after Inner Space, and then it was supposed to drop in 2020, and then it eventually dropped like closer to 2021. So yeah, that's how all that happened. But yeah.
No doubt. And even with the whole like, Space Jam like thing going on, how do you feel about the recent changes with Space Jam with Lola Bunny as Lola Bunny's character being like changed, and the removal of like Pepe Le Pew and Speedy Gonzalez as well. With all this stuff going on.
So I'll say first with the Pepe Le Pew thing. Like I remember someone talking about it, and they're like, "Oh well, they were gonna make it so that he couldn't touch any tunes without consent, and he had a restraining order from the cat." I'm like, if you got to do all of that in a children's cartoon, then you just should not put the character in at all. And I was actually watching back some Pepe Le Pew thing. I'm like, yeah, this is not a character that needs to be in a children's cartoon. And with like Lola Bunny, like I just feel like I should have never been that sexually attracted to a bunny in my life. So maybe it's better that day.
Yeah.
Because this is like a lost skit. I might post it up one day for shits and giggles, but at the end of the tape, instead of like the whole credits thing, it was supposed to be this thing that said like, yo, I'm actually like, I think that Lola Bunny's sexy. And I think that everybody that watched Space Jamz at the time did like, damn, I remember watching my grade 5 class. And we just, as soon as Lola Bunny walks in, we just like, get me that rabbit. Get me that rabbit. I don't think that any male, female, nobody of any age should be that sexually attracted to a rabbit. Because even if you look in the movie, even Michael Jordan's kind of like he about to risk it all. Yeah. So the changes to me don't really affect me. It's a cartoon rabbit. People need to calm down. So that's how I feel about that. I'm just excited to making a movie.
True. Yeah, no doubt. And I know that we spoke about, more with working with KidKame, like even with the 1994 2002 song on there. And then, you managed to say that you've worked with Kame, like, being in like Scarborough, for the music video and like in other parts of the area. So what was it like how did you manage to work with KidKame like before the song and everything like that, and the musical relationship between you and them, and like just everything else like before that as well, and like even like continuing on with that relationship?
So it all started like through my record label, so PYO Records. So initially Kame heard Running, and then they reached out to me and they wanted me to be on a project with them. And then they told me, oh, well, we got to cancel because the person I'm working with doesn't want anybody else as a feature. And I'm like, that's cool. Maybe, you could work with something with me. So a few months passed by and they say they're not doing that project anymore. So I said, all right, cool. You want to hop on mine? Because I was looking for someone to fill that spot after the guy had, not wanting to do it or giving me a verse that wasn't all that great. So they said that, yeah, they do it. Before that, I actually checked out one of their songs, Slept On. And that was my most listened to song of 2020. I love that song, and I'm listening to him. Like, I love KidKame's vibe. I love like how they go on. I love their artistic just process with everything. So I told, at the time, a Vintage Vibe was mixing and mastering all of the songs. But I said, yo, I'm gonna let Kame mix and master this one because I don't feel like I get everything out of the feature if I don't let them do what they do on the mix, right? Which is why you hear like these like little cool things. You hear like chatter in the background. You hear the Kame skit at the end. Even the thing where they're at the end where they're rapping and you hear me say that that's how we stay back in them days. That wasn't originally planned or anything. That was all Kame. So I'm happy that I gave that responsibility over to Kame. But even like after that, when we are going to like work on just the video, they actually came down and they needed someone to stay, so they stay at my house. We had a video that we posted on Instagram. Like, they looked at me and they're like, yo, like, I need a quiet place to think so we could work on these because we were doing the shots for the video. And I'm like, cool, what do you think? He's like, yo, have you ever been on the roof of your house? Because like the wind where I used to be, the window led right out to like the roof, like over the porch. And they're like, yo, have you ever been on the roof? I'm like, nah, I never thought of that. They're like, yo, let's go on the roof. So we went, opened the window, we went on the roof and we're just chopping it up and like rhyming and writing down stuff. And then yeah, like from there, we just always kept in contact. Like every time we work on something, we find out a way where we can have a part of it. I'm actually working on another project, and they do have like multiple roles that they play in that project. They're working on the project, and I have multiple roles that I play in that project. And so we always try to keep each other in the loop, because like I honestly, honest to God, I believe that they're going to be one of the biggest things in music that ever happens. And like even like when you're just looking at music as a whole, from the people that I see coming up, and from the way where you're like, well, you can't just say the rapper, just say they're this or just say they're that. Like I think that's going to be the new wave. That innovation is going to be the new wave. So yeah, we're working on a lot of stuff. We talk all the time. They try to tell me that Krillin could beat One Punch Man, and we got into a little argument. I'm like, that's cap, that's super cap. But all right.
True, yo, I know what you mean.
Talking about, yeah, go ahead.
No. I think it was just like I was thinking about certain remarks, but I think you were like trying to finish up. But yeah.
Yeah, no, just like little things like that. Even in the video, like the whole 1994 to 2002, like that concept was just like, I wanted to show like, just the split in that generation, because I was born 94, they were born 2002. They're constantly calling me an old man, because I'm like, yeah, I'm 26. Like, oh yeah, you're almost 30. I'm like, you're a baby. But yeah, even there, like we make jokes, and throughout the entire video shoot, they're like, yo, the 2000s were better than the 90s. I'm like, nobody says they want to be a 2000 kid. You hear like kids born in the 2010s, they want to be 90s kids. They don't want to be a 2000 kid. And like just making little jokes like that, them saying that Pokemon, because it's in 1994, 1999, was technically a 2000 show. It wasn't. It wasn't 2000 show. But just little things like that. And I think that working together, hanging out together, that just like it grew our our professional relationship as artists, and it also grew our personal relationship as friends. And it was like whenever I come into people that I work on with music, that always seems to be the case. They're always people that I could like vibe with and talk to. Even Ego, I first met them because, like I told you, I wanted that validation to see if I was actually good at rapping. And from there, we were also rapping and working together, but we were also just shooting the shit as friends. And to this day, I keep contact with them. When I met them all the way when I was in grade 10, 11, So
Yeah.
yeah.
No doubt. And like with my last interview with Kame, which was like last year, just hearing the responses, and asking, and knowing about their musical career and everything like that, it's like interesting as well too. And even the love for like lo-fi music, Dragon Ball Z, and even like anime too, like it's pretty dope that you guys have, you both of you have like certain like common similarities in that sense, and you're doing like lo-fi music as well too. So how do you feel about the state of like lo-fi like music right now, like with the beats and the production, and with the big lo-fi acts like making it into the mainstream world?
So I know that like some songs on the tape, they are like lo-fi beats or lo-fi inspired. I try to always do something where I switch it up, because I'm more of a traditional hip hop guy. I'm more influenced by traditional hip hop. I like to take elements from subgenres like lo-fi, like nerdcore, like things like trap, and implement it in my music. But I still like keeping that traditional. That's why like a lot of my tracks are more lyric heavy than anything. So I can't really say anything on the lo-fi scene, because I don't know a lot. I only know lo-fi through Kame, and then through like those like study, like 2 hour lo-fi beat to study to,
Yeah,
like
no doubt, no
things like
doubt.
that. No disrespect to anybody that does lo-fi, because I think it's actually a really dope thing in hip-hop, and I just love like what it and other subgenres just represents. And that's like the evolution of hip-hop. For at first it was this like very narrow thing, like this is hip-hop and only this is hip-hop. And then as time progressed, it branched out. Well, now this can be considered hip-hop. Now everybody's singing on stuff and this is hip-hop. Now people are doing this and it's hip-hop. And I love that there's like just so much for everybody to enjoy. And even though there's some parts of hip-hop that I personally don't like, or that other people may not like, but the fact is there's always something there for somebody. And even what it represents for upcomers, right? So somebody coming out, they always have something to, they could gain inspiration off of. They have something that could fit them, right? I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm lo-fi, but somebody else listening to my music might say, yeah, that's lo-fi and I like it. And, you know, they're not wrong. That's how they interpret it. It's the same way, like, you look at someone like J. Cole and people say, oh, you know, that's a nice East Coast rapper, but technically the man's from the South. So, right? So I like, even I like that. So yeah, just the influence, how hip hop has changed, what like the different subgenres mean as far as the growth of hip hop. That's what it is. If something doesn't keep evolving, then it dies, and hip hop just keeps evolving, and I love that.
True. And I know that we talked a lot about, inner space. You already like explained, about the concept, the creative process, inspiration.
Mhm.
I think we could like dive into, the whole like black nerd aspect. So,
Okay.
you embrace it in like a big manner, and
Yeah.
you still stand by on that, like in that
Yeah.
sense. And do you consider like making a lane for that aspect in the Toronto music scene?
Yeah, most definitely. I think that the lane is already there. It just needs to be filled, right? Like hip hop and anime go hand in hand, right? Because so many artists growing up grew up in that anime era, that Toonami era. So if I like hip hop, I'm gonna hear references about anime. Already hear like Ski Master Slum God has Bear Naruto bars in it. What's that song? JoJo Pose. Like, even though not a lot of people may watch, or like, I guess if you're not huge into anime, not a lot of newcomers to anime really watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure there. That's something that, is widespread that people will know of. So I think the lane's there. I think it's just up to people to want to fit in that lane. I think what stifles the Toronto music scene, Canadian music scene, is that instead of trying to make our own personality, and instead of trying to make like our own lane or whatever, we try to like fit ourselves into what is already popping. So like, the Atlanta sound is currently the biggest sound in hip hop, period. And all we do is we just switch out their slang for our slang, and then say it's Canadian hip hop. And I think that what we have to do is just like make our own identity, right? If we want them to take us seriously, make our own identity. Drake was taken seriously because he made his own identity when he was coming up. People weren't doing the things that Drake didn't do, so people saw that. Even like with Tory Lanez, like, I think that he makes like mixtape music. And when I say mixtape music, I mean like those old tapes that you put a bunch of different songs onto, burn it onto a CD, give it to somebody, and that's the inspiration for the Chicks tape, right?
Yeah.
And like, he made his own lane in that way. And I think that that's what we have to do, instead of being like, okay, we're gonna make like Southern hip hop or this. Like, there's no problem being inspired off of anything, because that's where creativity comes from. Being inspired from something and then doing something different with it, right? How I put my own twist on it. But that's what we need to do. I hope that I can inspire more people, more Toronto, more Canadian hip hop artists to start veering in to that anime lane. Because even like my little bro is my biggest supporter. This guy went to school in Ottawa, and he was just bumping anime vibes, and someone came up to him, they're like, yo, like, I don't watch anime, but I really, really, really like this song. And that's kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted it to be, so if you didn't watch anime, you'd be like, this is a good song. And if you did watch anime, you'd be like, oh my
Yeah.
god.
No,
Right.
no, yo.
Right. So yeah, because I feel like representation in anything is important. If you see somebody that looks like you, that acts like you, doing something, you're more likely to embrace it. The other day I was trying to get back into Yu-Gi-Oh, and I was watching a whole bunch of YouTube videos on it, and I seen these black dudes that's whole channel was just dedicated to Yu-Gi-Oh skits. I'm like, oh snap, right? So
Yeah.
that's why that representation is important. If they hear more people talking about anime and hip hop and the Canadians dudes doing that, then they're gonna be like, all right, it's cool for me to do it. So now let me try. So
Yeah.
that's why, like, there's always a presence, like, in all the songs I do, even if it's not fully about anime, there's always some sort of anime or comic book, or some kind of reference in there, because that's me. I even said it in my song To the Stereo. I'm a self-proclaimed nerd. I ain't defined by my struggles, right? I
Yeah.
decide who I'm gonna be, and I decide to be that nerd because I love being that nerd.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. I do feel like, in a sense, too, like in Toronto and like even like within the GTA too, usually they accept certain genres based on like what's popular right now. So
Hmm.
even with the Hoodman music, you have Pressa, YG, Top Five, and
Hmm.
then you
Hmm.
have the Drake type music where other artists are thriving off that. Do you feel like, certain genres that try to make it to Toronto, it's usually like more shamed or not really accepted to the masses like that, or do you feel like it could only be specific to a specific fan base?
Let me think about that. Okay, so like I said, with the Toronto music scene, I agree with what you said earlier, where like they just try to do whatever is really, really popping now. I don't think that it gets ridiculed, but I don't think it gets enough love. And what I'm seeing now, just from like people that I'm working with, people that are starting to blow up now, like it's starting to be that the artists coming out are just doing something completely different. They're like, yo, like you look at KidKame, there's another artist, a Jane, that's like blowing up right now on TikTok and everywhere, and that's a Toronto artist, and like they're just doing something completely different, and I think that is going to be the future of like Toronto music, just like doing something completely different that you can't like squarely categorize in a specific genre, because I think right now what we're doing is we're making our own identity, right?
Yeah.
So I think part of making our own identity comes from like that beginning process is always you take from what you see and then you create something different off of that. I do feel like for like an artist like me that's not necessarily doing like trap rap or necessarily doing love of man music, it's gonna be a little harder because like that's not what people are accustomed to or really want to hear. So I have to really like pick and choose my audience, and I really have to like get them with certain things. But at the same time, I think that slowly but surely we're getting to that point where people are starting to open up.
No doubt, no doubt. And just to speak more on like the whole like nerd aspect. I know in some cases too now it's more accepted for like black nerds to even like date and have like female black nerds as well. And
Yeah,
it's a good thing too. And now, but
yeah.
like even before then, like usually the whole like educated like a black lame or like the black nerd stereotype, it has like an issue like within like some women like in that sense too. And then you had like these discussions from black nerds or educated like lames in that sense on, hey, why am I not getting that girl, like in that sense too. So how do you feel about like that entire like issue in general in that sense?
All right, so here's what I speak on. I used to be that guy that like, because I remember when my girlfriends actually said it. That, but this was like after I kind of like came to terms with, yeah, I am a nerd. I'm going to reference Darkseid and Superman in every other sentence. But they're like, oh wow, I'm really dating a nerd. I can't believe it. Like as a negative thing. And before that would have hurt me. I used to be the guy that's like, oh, why doesn't she want me and this and that? And like to that, I would just say, yo, if they don't want you, if that's not what they like, the same way how they can't force you to not like anime, you can't force people to not like what they want. If that's not what they like, that's not what they like. There's a lot of girls, right? There's a lot of people in general that love the anime scene, and like for us guys too, we kind of do gatekeep it. I understand it to a degree because it's like for me, for example, I remember one time someone's like, "Oh my god, I love your shirt. That's an anime shirt," and I'm like, I was kind of upset because I'm like, yo, back in the day, like they can't just be walking around with their anime shirt like that, or else they get clowned. Because I always used to get clowned, even if I had like the smallest anime thing. I have a Goku, and they're like, oh, you're one of those, right? Or even like you play video games, and then like the instant like thing that it pops in their heads, like, oh, you're like 30 years old in your mom's basement. You don't do anything with your life. But now that concept's changed, and we kind of like gatekeep it because like the older generation did feel that ridicule. So like when someone's like, "Oh yeah, I watch anime too." Well, what anime you watch? Name all the Akatsuki members. Oh, put all the Hokages in alphabetical order. Oh, you can't do that. You're not an anime fan. We need to stop doing that, right? At the same time, we have to understand people have their own interests, right? If you don't like something, it don't really matter. Somebody else out there likes. How I always roll is I'm gonna be unapologetically me, and if you don't like that, that means you're not for me, and that's it.
No doubt, no doubt. I know we just only have like these last two questions. One I just made up off the bat, and then the other one like being usually my last question. How did you feel about MF Doom passing away on Halloween? Because I know like you referenced MF on like the cover art and everything like that too.
Mhm. MF Doom was a big ass inspiration to me. Like I just loved the way that he rhymed. I loved like again his comic book references and everything he did to that. And actually he's one of the biggest inspirations for something I'm gonna do on another project. But yeah, like I didn't even hear that he passed away on Halloween. It wasn't until like, you know, like the Christmas season that we really heard that MF Doom passed away, and I was just so shocked. And I'm like, God, like we really lost like a really great MC. That took a toll on me. I actually, I draw too, I do art too. I did like a big memorial for MF Doom, like a little picture that I did for him. But yeah, like I love this man's albums. I love like what he stands for. I love how he was so dedicated. You could tell that he loved hip hop. He was so dedicated to hip hop and his character. He would not even do an interview as Daniel Dumile. He would do it as MF Doom to the point, and like he kept those two people so separate to the point I didn't even know his name was Daniel Dumile. So there's this line on my favorite MF Doom song of all time is what's it called? Doomsday, off of the Operation Doomsday album, the first song off of that. And he's like, Doomsday, back to the tune where my brothers say, what did he say? I forget, but he basically says like either unnamed or either my government or unnamed, hey, who's to say? And then he says his name, Dumile. And I'm like, oh shit. And that bar, just listening to that after the man passed away, how he's saying like, yo, either my tombstone's gonna be unnamed or I'm gonna put my real government name on that. I'm like, oh, just listen back. I'm like, oh shit. I went back, I was watching like concerts, I was looking like how he was doing his whole Doombot thing. Yeah, like that's one of my biggest inspirations. That's the reason I put him on, you know, the cover of my mixtape. And that was like before he passed away, just because like I love that. I love like I like to be weird on my tracks and say outlandish things. And he's one of the biggest inspirations for that, because like he just say whatever. He said, "Oh, I'm King Kedra. I'm a 50-foot, three-headed, you know, dinosaur. Let's do this." So yeah, R.I.P. Doom.
Yeah, yeah,
R.I.P.
for
Doom.
sure. Long live the greats, you know. And
Yeah.
just to end it off, what are your plans for this year, like in terms of any other creative projects or more music or anything else? And do you have any advice that you would like to say for any person out there like pursuing their dreams?
All right, so I'm gonna first tackle the first part of your question. So yes, I have. There's a lot of things. So Kame hit me up, and Kanye's like, "Yo, Paris." I said, "Yo, Kame." He's like, "Yo, Paris." They're like, "Yo, you gotta drop an album this year." I said, "Why?" They're like, "Cause I'm doing it, and I want everybody that I work with to just drop an album. I want the 2021 to be the year everybody remembers when all these people took off." And I said, I do it. So I got in contact with a new producer, because I told myself like I'm not buying type beats anymore, right? Like I think that phase of my career is done. Buying type beats, rapping off of type beats is done. I'm on my own thing. So I went to this very talented producer, Wellington, and I said, "Yo, Wellington." He's like, "Yo, Paris." I said, "Yo, Wellington." He said, "Yo, Paris." I said, "Yo, I'm doing an album, and I want you to produce. I want you to mix. I want you to master the entire thing." So that's what I'm working on right now, and it's called Astro Death. It's going to be the first part of a 3-album series. I can't really talk too much about it because I want it to be a surprise, but I will be working on that. You're gonna see features from Kame. You're gonna be seeing features from a lot of other artists. So that's like the biggest thing on my mind. I'm also working on getting a couple of videos out for Space Jamz, because the whole COVID thing hit. A lot of those plans got kind of hindered, but I will be working with Deadlight Films again for another video. So that will be coming out too. So that's like what I have for the next year. As far as advice I have for up and coming artists, I will say this. Number one, this is a piece of advice I got from a man who wanted me to fail, but this is just to show you that it's not the messenger, it's the message. As a rapper, we have very low stock, right? So if you want something, like you want a beat or something, there are 100 rappers out there, right? I would say always get another skill. If you can make beats, that's amazing, right? If you can design logos, if you can do art pieces like I can, if you could sing, if you could do anything else, you could bring that to the table as a bargaining chip, and that will help get you those connections. A lot of connections, like PYO record that I talked about, which helped me get my connections to a lot of producers and videographers, I got because I made them a logo, right? So that's to show you if you have that other thing. As a rapper, like even if you are the most skilled rapper out there, you have to understand like rappers right now are a dime a dozen. So if you can do something else, that's only gonna raise your stock. The next thing I will say is the only person that's gonna stop you from pursuing what you want, and this is super cliche, is you. I have at many moments said I'm going to give up hip hop. I had of many moments say I'm not good enough, and doing that despite getting a bunch of positive reinforcements from everybody around me. Even back before I was like, I would say even that good, like people were like, "Yo, you're gonna make it, you're gonna make it." But in my head, sorry about that. But in my head, I thought like, "Oh no, I can't do this." So like the biggest person that you're gonna have to convince that you can be successful is yourself. And once you do that, don't ever waver in your conviction, right? If you set yourself to say, yo, I'm going to be a hip hop artist, do it. Because what hip hop is a whole bunch of ups and downs. We only focus on the people that made it after a couple of months or are famous by 17. But you look at Jid. I found out that Jid, when he made the Never story, when he made the Never story, it was when he was like damn near 30, right? Another dude I listened to, Toby Lou, he blew up when he was again like 30 years old. Like these are people that we think, because we think that hip hop is such a young man's game. So we're always putting pressure on ourselves. If I don't blow up by this time, then I'm not nothing. Just keep with it. You have to keep with it. You have to give your all in it. And if you give your all in it, you may or may not get what you gave in back, but you have to believe at all times that your hard work is going to pay off, right? If I gave up a few years back, like I wouldn't have any of the connections, even though I wouldn't say I'm the greatest, like, oh, you know, I'm this big star. Like I wouldn't even be having this interview with you, but it's that constant belief in yourself. And once you get a hold on to that, don't let nobody, especially not yourself, take that away from you. And that's the only way you're going to make it in the industry. And the last thing I'll say is also make sure you make connections, because your music is just as important as the people that you're connecting to and your musical contacts. So when you go to shows, always talk to people you don't know who might be out there.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt.